how to apply the most tax-effective strategy, put yourself in the best possible position from a tax perspective when we talk about and consider investment properties. So as we've discussed in previous modules, there are really two key segments that we need to consider when we're thinking about the optimal tax position. And again, this is all in the context of owning an investment property. The first is having the right ownership structure. And so this is very, very important because the right ownership structure determines the tax applicable, and it is a significant driving force in long-term strategic planning. So we've discussed owning investment properties as an individual or as joint owners or as a company or as a trust. If we go back to our introduction, we spoke about the need to have a strategic plan in terms of what are we trying to achieve. And I'll focus on the most common aspect, and that's wealth generation. So if we're looking to generate wealth and we're looking to have some form of inheritance left for our children when we're no longer around, then we're talking about a long-term property strategy. And so then we really need to sit down and think about what is the most tax-effective way. And that heavily depends on us individually and where we are from a financial perspective today. This is why there is never a brush that we can paint this wall with and just have one color. And what I mean by that is each of us is in a very different financial position. I have two brothers, and all three of us are in different financial positions. We get along really well, we do business together, but we're in different financial positions. And so strategies that would apply to me as opposed to one of my brothers or the other in terms of investing in properties are different because of where we are from a financial perspective today. So it is really important to understand where you are today because to an extent that will guide you on where you want to be tomorrow and then subsequently what sort of ownership structures you're going to apply. And we have seen and we have worked and advised, our clients on various different ownership structures from an accounting and tax perspective, certainly not from a financial planning perspective because we don't have that license and we don't engage in financial planning. But purely from an accounting and tax perspective, certain clients might be in a better position to have a single discretionary trust for every investment property that they own. So every investment property has its own trust. Other structures might be one company that has several investment properties within that company. Again, based on the desired outcome and based on the strategic direction. So what we stress with this particular segment is applying the right tax planning strategies heavily depends on where you want to be and where you are today and who is part of this journey with you. Some of us have families, and so therefore we're thinking about our kids and we're thinking about their future. Others might not have families, and so they're focusing on their own retirement. Whatever it may be, we all find ourselves in different shoes and at different stages of life from a financial perspective. So it is imperative that we understand that when we make these decisions. And again, it's imperative that we actually talk to somebody who's able to provide the best possible advice when it comes to this particular topic. So one aspect is ownership structures, really important. Which entity or which structure we're going to use, and I specifically stay away from entity because a trust is not a separate legal entity that's going to own this particular property or this set of property portfolio that we're going to build over a period of time. The other categories that we need to consider is negative gearing, and we've spoken about this, depreciation, CGT discount, the concept of carry forward losses, all within the realms of our existing financial position. So all of these are different tools that are applied very differently, have specific guidelines in the way they can be applied and differ across the different ownership entities and structures. But it's important, again, that we understand our starting point because through that mechanism, we'll be able to apply the right strategies. And I know I might sound like a parrot, and I sincerely do apologize, but I keep on going back to please buy the right advice. I manage an accounting and business consultancy practice. And so I am not an expert in IT. So I have a firm that looks after our entire IT infrastructure. I pay them well above market to ensure that they manage our IT infrastructure. It gives me the freedom, and it also gives me the time to focus on what I'm good at and what creates value for my accounting practice. And my value creation comes from business sales and client engagement. That's what I'm really good at, and that's what I focus on. I certainly don't pretend to know everything there is to know about IT systems. On the contrary, I think I'm almost illiterate when it comes to IT systems, but I accept that fact. I acknowledge it, and I'm more than happy to pay for somebody actually to manage that who has the right expertise. Now, initially, that might sound like an upfront cost, but long term, the amount of time that I get back from not thinking about the management of those IT systems is extremely valuable to me, well beyond the actual cost that I incur as a result of that fact. And in saying that, I only use that example to bring it back to the topic at hand. Please, buy the best advice that you possibly can. Find the best accountant that you can. Find, if need be, the best financial advisor, buyer's agent, broker. Yes, you'll spend money up front, but if you're in it for the long haul, if you're looking to build wealth on a long-term basis and scale, then I assure you, the costs that you will incur up front in obtaining this advice and service will be nowhere near the value that that advice and service creates.